of them to get by. Oh, Corey Gibbs, around he goes.
Round he goes, spinning around, and caution will come out again. And that'll be the 11th caution flag. Watch the 6, the 20.
Little bit of contact there. A little bit of contact, and around Corey goes.
Well, Jerry, Kevin Harvick's on his way to the garage. He's done for the day, not because he's tired of racing, but because NASCAR said you're not going to race anymore. And here's the reason. Not because he spun Corey Gibbs, but because he said on the radio before it happened, I'm going to go get him. So it was definitely intentional. NASCAR heard it on the radio, and they've said, Kevin, you're done for the day.
During the 2002 truck race at Martinsville, Kevin Harvick got suspended for the Cup race after crashing Corey Gibbs in the Truck Series. This is one and only the few times that a NASCAR Cup Series driver has been suspended for doing something on the racetrack in another racing series. Matt Kenseth was disqualified during the 2017 Kansas race for having too many pit crew members over the wall when he was having his car repaired after an accident. This ultimately would ruin Matt Kenseth's chances at a championship in 2017. This would be his last full-time competitive season, and it was a detriment to Kenseth and his racing career. Extremely heartbroken and one of the worst penalties imaginable.
The unique thing about this is that is the gas man. He's allowed to normally be over 3 pit boxes away if he's gassing the car, but look at him. He has no gas can in his hand. They do that for safety. They don't want him holding a 100-pound gas can trying to jump over instantly. So the fact that he was on the ground more than 1 box away was a penalty in this situation.
This is another stupid penalty, or it might be a stupid mistake. However you want to put it, Kyle Busch, during the 2017 Chicagoland race, his gas can man was over the wall during the pit stop. He was not fueling or even touching the race car, but since he was over the wall, and he was over the wall when Kyle Busch was more than 3 boxes away, Busch was black flagged and had to be brought down to pit road because of this. This has to be one of the most stupidest penalties I've ever seen. One of the worst disqualifications in NASCAR history is when an extra piece of tape that was underneath the wrap of the decals was caught in post-race inspection. And this happened to none other than Denny Hamlin, everybody's favorite driver, right? Denny Hamlin was disqualified from his win at Pocono during the first year of the Gen 7 race car. Hamlin was disqualified and placed last on the field and ultimately would not get to take home the win because of this.
See the NASCAR haulers, the officials' haulers are still here at Pocono, and those haulers contain the 11 car, the race-winning car, or the former race-winning car of Denny Hamlin, and this former second-place car of Kyle Busch. Both have been disqualified for what NASCAR described as a material in the front fascia that is not supposed to be there.
Steve, what looked to be a strong day for Joe Gibbs Racing turned into a historic day for NASCAR with the less than 2 hours after the race, when NASCAR officials who had stated before the season that they were going to stiffen penalties related to the next-gen car found issues with the cars of the 11 of Denny Hamlin and the 18 of Kyle Busch. That led to NASCAR for the first time in 62 years disqualifying a winner. And that led to Chase Elliott being declared the winner yesterday.
Mark Martin striving. He's coming to the line. He is the strongest car of the day. Mark Martin has won his second Winston Cup race.
As Roush and his team celebrated the checkered flag in victory lane, a rival competitor for the Cup was raising a red flag in the garage.
And Richard Childress was standing there with a NASCAR inspector, and he pointed and he said, "That's it right there." And he was pointing at the carburetor spacer, which was 2.5 inches tall and can only be 2 inches tall.
It came down to a decision was made by NASCAR that it was not legal.
This penalty right here would cost Mark Martin a championship. This ultimately would have most likely been his only championship in the NASCAR Cup Series. Martin was docked points after this infraction in post-race inspection that Richard Childress and Dale Earnhardt Sr. saw. They pleaded with NASCAR and won their case. Martin would ultimately lose the point lead and lose his shot at a championship when he fell short at the end of the season.
But that's a getaway. Never a good sign when you look over and a tire's passing you on pit road.
Well, that was a tire that was intended on going on, and there you see the 11 car. Knew it was a brand new tire that had a sticker on it.
Jack man. Never a good sign when your tire passes you. Too bad Costly mistake.
Back when we used to have 5 lug nuts, this rule kind of made sense. But now when you have 1 lug nut and the lug nut isn't even tight, it's hard to even blame the crew chief. Back then, when you would lose a tire, your crew chief would be suspended for multiple weeks. Nowadays, thankfully, they fixed that rule, but this is one of the stupidest rules in NASCAR history.
Pace cars off, green flags up here at Homestead. Tony Stewart, Greg Biffle. Body to body, Kevin Harvick, Jamie McMurray, the top 5. Black flag for the race leader.
Tony Stewart has been black flagged?
That's what I'm hearing.
Too slow on the restart? Wow. That's big.
The restart before that had been waved off because Tony Stewart was not keeping up with the pace car. So that's why they put the pace car back out in front. They issued a warning to Tony. And apparently you're supposed to stop weaving your car back and forth when you're in turn 3 on the lap to the restart. Not apparently. That's the instructions they gave out in the driver's meeting.
Right.
And Tony was still weaving his car coming off turn 4 down for the restart, so they black flagged him.
So that's why, because he was still weaving, not because he was too slow.
Right. Okay.
There we see him back and forth trying to clear those tires of debris. They told him stop doing that at that time, and there was the restart. 1 second.
Somebody missed the turn entirely.
3 wide, 4 wide per second. Here comes Austin Cindric. Ryan Blaney sideways in front of the field.
Side by side up front, though. Chastain, he's right there. They're going side by side through the kink.
And around goes the 1. He's able to get by the 8.
Unbelievable. Sideways, though. That's going to allow Reddick to get a run on him. Lost momentum on corner exit. A lot of dirt and debris on the tires.
Chastain went off the track. So he did that access road to get back on track. Now,
I am sure, and all the places you can race here, you were looking for a spot there at the end. What were you thinking?
What do you mean, where?
Taking the access road there and getting off course there.
Oh, just trying not to be in the carnage there in turn 1. I thought we were 4 wide and couldn't go any farther right, and just decided to take the NASCAR access lane out there.
This next penalty is kind of fair, but also at the same time it's kind of unfair. The rule is when you're trying to avoid an accident at Indianapolis road course, you must take the access road. That's what Ross Chastain did, right? But was he really trying to avoid the crash? Regardless of what his intent was, NASCAR saw that this was illegal and placed him on the last car on the lead lap, ultimately getting Ross Chastain thrown from second to way back in the pack and having a terrible finishing position.
So at that point, did you think that you were going to be fine? Did you know NASCAR that was a penalty to go over where you went?
Well, I knew it was a penalty to miss the chicane, but there was a clause in there in the driver's meeting where if you miss the chicane due to an incident, NASCAR would review it. And I figured that me getting run off the racetrack and having no other option was a justifiable reason, but I guess not.